experience moments of loneliness. We all have experienced moments of isolation and abandonment. That feeling like nobody understands, nobody's there for you, nobody cares. A lot of times, these feelings are accurate because they are felt. They're accurate because we experience them. We know these feelings to be true. Everybody has experienced these feelings. Everybody has felt these feelings. So that means they are real, meaning they are not fake. They are true. They do exist, and they can affect you. You can be affected by them. They can grab hold of you, per se. That doesn't mean that that's the whole story or the only story. Sometimes we find ourselves in a dark place where there is no answers for the multitude of questions that we have. Sometimes we find ourselves standing at the door of a new situation, a new opportunity, whatever the case may be, with no real key to unlocking the door. Countless questions that need to be answered, but the answer isn't clear. You know there is an answer, but the answer isn't crystal clear. There is a deep fear in the unknown that lies within all mankind. We all fear the things that we don't understand. We all fear the things that we can't see. Future. We know what we want the future to hold, but we don't really know what the future holds. And that is a level of fear that is sometimes crippling. We want to have a foothold, or in our hands we want to hold on to every aspect of the situation, and sometimes there is no handle to hold on to. There is no edge or ledge that you can grab onto to catch yourself from falling. You just gotta fall in. It's a difficult task, but I'm learning in the process of not knowing to be calm. There's a great sense of frustration that builds up when you don't know what's going on, or when you don't know what's going to happen next. The level of anticipation, because it could be anything, and in our minds we create so many different scenarios, so many different takes, playouts of how this thing will actually go, how it could possibly go. A lot of times these replays, mental recordings that replay in our mind are from a negative perspective. We view things as what could go wrong. That's usually the first thought we think of, what could go wrong, what's the worst that could happen. Not from a perspective of being comfortable, finding comfort in the worst that could happen. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I read that when I was like 13. Asking yourself, what's the worst that could happen? And after understanding all the worst that could happen, then you ask yourself, can I deal with this? Meaning, if the worst of the worst happens, can I bounce back from it? And if the answer is yes, then you no longer need to worry about the worst that could happen. You can go full steam ahead, focused on all the good, the best that could happen, because you already know the worst that could happen and you know you can deal with it. We can create millions of scenarios of the worst thing that can happen, but we only really have one picture of the best thing that can happen. Therefore, the odds are stacked against you. The odds are stacked against us in how we go forward with our next moves. And so we usually end up in a temporary holding position, stuck mentally, then emotionally, and then physically. It's weird, it's frustrating, it's all of the things that are not acceptable, positive, and peaceful. All the opposites of those, the other side of the coin. I don't view things as being positive or negative. Everything happens for a reason. And a lot of times the things that happen that don't set well with you are learning moments or teachable moments. Man, and you can't find peace in a situation because you don't know what's going to happen next. That's a teachable moment. It's an opportunity for you to figure out why. Some people fear loneliness, being by yourself, without a partner, without friends, without a companion, someone to talk to, of like-minded character and quality, of a like-minded nature. An adult can be with a bunch of children and still feel alone, even though they're human beings, because they're not like-minded in concept and in consciousness, knowledge, level of knowledge, understanding, intelligence, things of that nature. There's a level of maturity that breeds a better conversation for an adult than with a child. In the absence of camaraderie, connection, union, adequate communication, what is a question that arises when the frustration, the sadness, the doubt, the fear, those things rise up within you? The depression. The question is why? Why are these emotions, these feelings, why are they rising up or standing up within me? Why are they affecting me so much in this area? About 2004, I was in South Carolina, living with my oldest brother. We were staying in a trailer in the woods, two-bedroom situation. It was pretty decent, you know what I mean, for two proverbial bachelors. You feel me? It was a decent little bachelor pad, you see what I'm saying? I would go to work, I would come home, stop by the store, get my little situation, and I would get back to the crib, and I would watch Superfly for hours, probably all night long, and just be by myself, try to enjoy being by myself. I didn't want that to be a limitation. I didn't want that to be something that crippled me. A lot of times we are crippled by loneliness, isolation, solitude. I believe it was in Pennsylvania. I can't remember the year exactly and the time, but I want to say it was like the Quakers, something like Mormons type of ordeal. The leader at the time instituted what we know as solitary confinement. I cannot think of the name of the prison, but every cell in the prison was solitary confinement. There's like one center point in hallways going off of that center point, like rays of the sun exiting the sun. And down every corridor were cells, individual one-man isolation cells. Over time, these men who were put in these isolation cells to be left alone to themselves, began to go crazy. They thought this was the key to rehabilitation. It's beneficial under the right circumstances, meaning the right mindset. If your mindset is one of fear as it pertains to isolation, then everything fearful, once you're in isolation, will come back and it will continue to fuel your thoughts, fuel your emotions, fuel your feelings. Emotion is energy in motion. So once your emotions are fueled from a place of fear, loss, sadness, depression, things of that nature, you tend to respond in kind. So you'll have someone in an isolation cell screaming, shut up, leave me alone, stop it. Well, in moments of isolation, you turn inward. If it's not a willingness to turn inward, and it's a forcible inward turning, it's not going to have the right outcome that you expect it to have. It's actually counterproductive. And then prolonged isolation would definitely do one to you. Even in the midst of isolation, you need a break. Too much of anything is bad. Too much of anything isn't good for you in the long run. Too much of anything isn't beneficial. It will begin to pick at or take away pieces of the whole. If you spend too much time having fun, running around, playing, jumping, doing all of that, you might get physically stronger, you might build up more stamina and energy, but your ability to be patient, to sit down and settle yourself will begin to wane to the point where you will be considered ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Most children have that. I want to run around, play, you know what I mean? And when you get them to that place to where where you need them to sit down and focus, it's hard to do that. We in isolation get in that same position. It's hard to focus, and the longer that you're in that position, the harder it is to focus. I find myself momentarily in positions of isolation, but self-inflicted isolation. I isolate myself for clarity of thought. I isolate myself for peace of mind, for an opportunity to connect with myself, to turn inward and to see what's going on within me, to get direction, or just to be settled, to become calm and not so antsy, frustrated, having to move, fidgety, things of that nature. I now find it easy to sit without moving for long periods of time. I'm actually finding it very peaceful in meditation, just sitting and not moving, being still, stillness. It helps with the subtle anxieties that grow from not knowing. To be able to settle your thoughts or have tunnel vision with your thoughts on one thing is the beginning of manifestation. It is the beginning of meditation. It is the beginning of unlocking yourself and being freed from the mundane nuances of the world, of everyday life that would have you distracted, frustrated. I watch very little, if any, TV, like regularly scheduled television programs. They're distractions, just like constant thoughts continuously repeating themselves over and over. You've probably never seen a new episode of anything except for sports and the news. They'll have television events that'll be like the brand new premiere of a new season of whatever TV show. It's really just a remix of a previously aired TV show. There may be new characters, you know. It's like CSI or Law and Order. I used to watch Law and Order. Oh my God, religiously. All of them. Law and Order SVU, Law and Order Criminal Intent. I watched all of them. Season upon season upon season. And they started putting them on Netflix and things of that nature. I binge watched them. Irony. While in prison, I watched Law and Order every single day because USA runs Law and Order marathons every single day. But you pretty much know what's going to happen. I would literally sit and dissect the crime. I started watching it to study human nature because in reality, all of these TV shows that they air, are just depictions of human nature. And so I started to watch these things from an educational perspective. And eventually I got to the point where I just stopped watching them altogether. A lot of times it's a distraction. Being engaged in something that doesn't feed you, just entertains you, is a distraction. Entertainment in and of itself is just a distraction. You go to work, you come back home frustrated. It's Corona season, which means you wake up frustrated and you see, everything that you deal with. Maybe your kids are in school, back in school now, or maybe they're still at home on the laptop doing homework or schoolwork, whatever the case may be. You have no free time. That time that you would normally have to have peace or would usually be at work, which means you had no peace. You still have no peace. And so in your frustration, you go and you turn the TV on and you look at, we're in a streaming world now, so you go on your Netflix or YouTube and you start streaming. You're streaming constantly, streaming, watching these videos and for entertainment, for distraction from what's going on, the day-to-day mundane things that bring about frustration, confusion, sadness. In so doing, we miss a lot of things. But if we take time to turn off the distractions, focus in on us. Why do I feel this way? Why is this situation seem overwhelming? Why am I frustrated? Question these things. I know a lot of times they say don't ask why because it leads to a lot of other questions. And that's what you need to do. Ask why. Why do I feel this way? I'm lonely. Why do I feel like I'm lonely? What makes me feel like I'm lonely? Why do I feel like I'm lonely? Where did this come from? When did I start feeling lonely when I was like, did I always feel lonely? Even when I was like, you ask yourself these questions. I'm by myself right now in this situation. I know I can talk and talk and talk and talk, but if any of this is helping you in any way, if it's informative, if it's bringing you peace in a situation, whatever the case may be, make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button and the notification bell. If you want, leave a comment